So let's get started with our kickoff address. I would like to welcome Stephen Galanis, the CEO of Cameo, the world's leading marketplace for personalized video shoutouts. He launched the company in 2017 with co-founders Martin Blencow and Devin Townsend, with the idea that the selfie was the new autograph. To date, the company has sold over 1 million cameos and seen over 40,000 athletes, actors, and influencers join the platform. In 2018, Cameo was named one of the 50 genius companies on Earth by Time Magazine. Stephen was named Chicago Inno's 2018 B2C Innovator of the Year and Crane's 40 Under 40. He is a LinkedIn alum who previously worked as a trader on the floor of the Chicago Board Options Exchange, and he is the founder of 2 film investment companies where he produced movies featuring stars such as Bruce Willis and Robert De Niro. Outside of work, he is an avid Chicago sports fan and serves on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity Chicago. Stephen is a 2010 graduate of Duke University, where he majored in history. So let's all give a huge, huge welcome to Stephen Galanis.
Hi, Christina. Thank you so much. Very excited to be speaking to this group today. And thank you for that bio. I think my talk might be over. You said everything that needs to be said. No, in all honesty, very excited to be here. Cameo is a platform, for those of you that don't know it, that started with the idea that the selfie was the new autograph. We had this idea that in a world where content is exponentially increasing, where every day there's a new show on Netflix or Amazon Prime, there's a new star blowing up on TikTok, there's new performers creating their own brand from scratch on YouTube and Instagram. We really believed that the amount of fame in the world was exponentially increasing, but at the same time, the amount of money that was available to all of these athletes, actors, celebrities was increasing at a linear basis. So in effect, what's been happening in the world is that a new class of people are emerging who are more famous than they are rich. Now, at scale, this doesn't seem like the problem that most people would wake up and try to solve. Being a graduate of Duke, I had a lot of good buddies that were in the NBA, in the NFL, some that became pro musicians and other things like that. And one of the things that hit me in 2016 was a documentary that ESPN released called Broke. And in that documentary, they said that 80% of NFL players go broke within 5 years of playing their last game. And for those of you that are diehard Chicago sports fans like me, there was also, right around the time we were starting, a report that Ernie Banks, probably the most beloved Chicago Cub of all time, died penniless. And to me, that was really sad. I really felt that people had the opportunity in this world of social to monetize their social in a way that could actually make them more beloved. And we set out to build Cameo in 2017. We came up through the 1871 incubator in Chicago. For the first year, it was literally just me and a desk and a few interns there. And we're really nurtured by the Chicago business community with angel investment and really helping us do all the things that we needed to do to get the ground running. Obviously, over the last few years, Cameo has been one of the fastest growing companies on earth. In fact, last year, we were the fastest growing consumer marketplace in the country, according to Andreessen Horowitz. But as much business growth as we have, what wakes me up every day and what wakes our team up every day is the fact that we create magical moments, as we call them. One thing that we've learned about Cameo is that every time a fan receives a Cameo, they actually become a bigger fan of that talent than they were before. And the fact that our most common review is best gift I've ever got, best money I've ever spent, greatest gift of my life. That's what puts smiles on our faces, and we've been happy to do that over 1.3 million times now at this point. A couple other big high-level thoughts about our marketplace and really what's been going on, especially since COVID. When COVID hit, we really didn't know how our business was going to do. We sell a gift that is nobody's must-have. It is very clearly a nice to have, and we're not selling Clorox, we're not selling Charmin toilet paper. So we were really worried about what was going to happen in our business on the demand side. We had pretty high conviction that on the supply side of our marketplace, we were going to have some major tailwinds from COVID, because suddenly every athlete, actor, musician on earth found themselves out of work. And increasingly, people who had previously told us that they didn't want to do Cameo because they were making too much money or they had no time, suddenly were making no money and had all the time in the world, like we just did at the beginning of COVID. And a lot of them started flocking onto the site. What we didn't appreciate as much, I'd have to say, is to the extent that life must go on for everybody. So in a world where there's social distancing, people still need to smile. People are still having birthdays. Kids were graduating from high school. My parents are both cancer survivors, and because of COVID, I didn't go and see them for Mother's Day and Father's Day, but instead I got them cameos to really surprise and delight them. And I've actually got a very good example of one of these. And just so those of you that haven't seen Cameo before, I want to give you an example of one that I actually got from my mom. So the story behind this Cameo is that my mother, I got a message on LinkedIn from some random person, and they said, "Hey, Steven, I just want to let you know that I just bought a Cameo, and it's for my wife for Mother's Day, and it's the single best Cameo that's ever been made." So of course, we've done a million of them. I see somebody say that, I say, "Send me the Cameo," and I get the Cameo, and it's from this artist named Michael Franti that I'd never heard of. And in fact, it literally was the best Cameo that I've ever seen. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you the Cameo I got from my mom. Keep in mind, my mom had never heard of this artist before, but I think by the end of it, you'll understand why there's now 100 Greek-American women in the North Shore of Chicago that will never miss a Michael Franti concert again. Check this out.
Whoa, whoa, life is better with you. Whoa, whoa, life is better with you. When I think about the things that we've been through, I know just one thing is true. Teddy, life is better with you. Teddy, I'm Michael Franti. I don't know if you know my music or not. This is
Sarah Franti.
We are here to wish you the happiest Mother's Day ever.
And this message dedication comes from your son Steven and John and your husband Tom, and they told us that you are a 2-time survivor, which is incredible, and I quote, "a tough cookie."
Yeah, and my mother-in-law, her mom, is also a survivor, so we're sending you big love today, and I've got a special song for you. And before I get into it, I just want to say, who would have thought that from small idea, so many lives could have been changed. So we want to give a big shout out to Steven for being one of the masterminds behind Cameo. And it's such a great way to touch people, to connect with people, especially in times when they're either just going through the challenges that we all face, like right now with everybody with Corona, or just everyday, moments that are precious in life.
So we're dedicating this song to you, Teddy.
All right. If you ever lay awake at night, wondering if we'll be alright, I'm on your side. I'm on your side.
So I don't want to bore you, but that goes on for another 5 minutes. And that's exactly what we talk about when we say at Cameo, we create magical moments where the talent is getting paid to become more famous. So another interesting thing that's happened to us since COVID started, and this has been reported in Cranes a couple weeks ago, as well as the Chicago Tribune. Cameo's actually made the decision since COVID to move the company fully distributed. Today, I'm actually coming to you from Miami in our employees have been spread throughout not just Chicagoland, but now all over the world, as people are finding a world without offices very liberating, and in a way for them to go and live anywhere that they've ever wanted to. One of the things that really allowed this to work for us is the fact that everything that we do at Cameo is tech enabled, and I actually co-founded the business with co-founders who were in Los Angeles, and our first employee, Arthur, was actually in New York City. So we got really good at this. We got really good at Zoom from the very beginning of our history. And because we always had people in different locations, and because we really built a culture around asynchronous communication, around video timing, around not needing to be in the office, it allowed us to actually make a pretty substantial pivot. And as background on at our company Christmas party this year, our landlord came up to me and said, "Hey, Steven, just to let you know, we're selling our building, and you need to be out by April 1st. And for those of you in commercial real estate, or those of you that have recently moved offices, you all know that 4 months is a stretch to move a 100-person company, especially a tech company like Cameo, where the employees expect all the bells and whistles." So one of the things that we started doing was negotiating with different landlords. And we were 1 day away from signing a lease in Fulton Market on March 11th. It was going to be a 10-year lease at 1375 West Fulton. And then, I just had the spider sense. I felt like, hey, this COVID thing's feeling crazy. Let's just take a step back and see what happens. And that night, the NBA got canceled. The next day, the market crashed. And, in the following 6 months, we've actually made the decision that we're never going back to offices, and that our employees can kind of work from wherever they want. This has been really interesting, and I think there's pluses and minuses. We just recently did an employee voice survey, and we found that over 80% of our employees felt that they were actually more productive working from home. And this was something that I had heard echoed by other CEOs who had previously made the switch. And I'll remember one CEO in particular, who's also in the Kleiner Perkins portfolio, who told me, "Steven, you're going to learn 3 things when you take your company fully distributed. Number one, you're going to realize that you probably had twice as many people as you actually needed." And what I mean by that is, when it's very natural when a company moves into a new office, into a new commercial space, that young managers see the empty chairs around them and immediately start hiring people just to feel like you're not in an empty space anymore. And I think last year at Cameo, when we scaled from 17 employees to 130 in 1 year, I felt like that was something that happened to us, and people were almost making up jobs to put different people in the seat. And unfortunately, that's not great for the employee. It's not great for the company. And ultimately, corrections tend to get made in those situations. The second thing the CEO mentioned to me was, you're going to find that working from home, your people are way more productive than they've ever been. He goes, "What I found was that my average employees were probably working for about 2 to 3 hours a day in the office, spending the rest of the time at lunch, socializing, talking to colleagues." And again, a lot of serendipity happens. There are a lot of magical moments in the creative process happen when you put people in a space. But he said, getting rid of commute time, allowing people not to have to take a full day off if they're going to the dentist. He's like, you're gonna just notice unbelievable productivity gains. And we've absolutely seen it. Our engineers are checking in more code than ever. Our salespeople are logging more activity in Salesforce. And overall, our employees really like the flexibility. And then, the third thing that he mentioned was that office politics were going to completely go away, because once you get in a world of Zoom, it no longer matters who is sitting next to you as a CEO. You can realize that people are doing great work for you all over the world, and physical proximity to the office or to the CEO just becomes less relevant. And there's actually a gal that works for us named Abby Shepard, who joined as intern number 1. She was employee number 2 at Cameo. She was 19 years old at the time, ended up after the first year. She was a foreign exchange student from the UK, dropped out of college because she was becoming so critical to the business and loved what she was doing so much. I had her running our whole European operation as a 20-year-old last year. And one of the things that I'll never forget was last year we had a new emerging leaders program that was built at HQ, and Abby was forgotten and left out of it. Now, she was one of the top 10 most important people at the company, but because she wasn't in headquarters, because she wasn't in Chicago, and because she was out in the UK kind of hiding away, doing a huge job for us, she was actually forgotten. So, from my perspective, I think making this transition to distributed has been huge. Some of the qualitative feedback that we heard about making the switch to a fully distributed culture actually was that there's a lot of loneliness right now as well. And while people love the flexibility of working from home, I think it's going to be critical for companies that do what we do to actually do things to bring people together on a routine basis. So at Cameo, historically, we took 3 opportunities to fly the entire company together. So our engineers in Argentina, our people in the UK and Australia, our team in LA, our team in Chicago, we bring everybody together 3 times a year. The first one is we do a tech offsite in our Venice office every year. So we bring everybody out to California in the middle of the Chicago winters, which is really popular with our engineers. The next thing we do is we fly the whole company to Chicago for the week of Lollapalooza, and we bring in great speakers and people, and basically allow them to take 3 days away from the business to just learn. And just this year, we did it virtually, and we had programming like Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank talking about what he sees in startups and how he knows to invest. We had Erica Nardini, the CEO of Barstool, talk about building a culture on authenticity, something that's really important to us. And Carol Baskins from Tiger King even came and gave our company a behind-the-scenes tour of Big Cat Rescue, which was very memorable. And at the end of the day, like Cameo had become very famous for our in-office culture. We were ranked one of the top 20 startups to work for in the world by Forbes last year. We were ranked one of the top 50 startups to work for in the world by LinkedIn last year. So people really loved our culture. And when you walked in the Cameo offices, for any of those who were fortunate enough to do that in Chicago or LA, it really felt magic. One of our values is roll out the red carpet, and you would walk into the Cameo office and there was a red carpet on the floor with a step and repeat and a red velvet rope. And we would always say that anyone that comes to our office, any customer, any person interviewing, they should feel like they're walking on the red carpet at the Academy Awards. Like that's the feeling you should get when you come into Cameo. And now that we've moved the company fully distributed, we've tried to maintain the roll out the red carpet vibes, especially as we're onboarding new people. We've been fortunate to be in a hiring mode because our business has drastically accelerated, from COVID. At our peak, we were up over 1,000%. From right before COVID to our peak around Mother's Day, very seasonal business. And one of the things that we've been doing is we've been sending care packages to the new hires, with their laptop, with stickers, with their values, with Cameo swag, with all types of different things to really make them feel part of the Cameo famio. I will say that over the next year, one of the challenges for us is going to be, can we maintain this A+ culture that we've built in a world where we can't see people every single day? Our second value at Cameo that I think is really core to our success is run through walls. And one of the things that we talk about when we talk about running through walls is, it's more important for our employees to find unreasonable solutions than reasonable excuses. And, COVID is one of those places where it's very easy for people to be demotivated. There's a ton of excuses of why they shouldn't keep grinding, why they shouldn't be working hard. But frankly, like our team's really rallied behind the momentum that our business has gotten. I saw a stat on CNN last week that said that 24% of 18 to 24-year-olds in the US have contemplated suicide since the COVID lockdown started. And one of the things that really gets us out of bed every day is that we're putting smiles on people's faces. We're creating magical moments. So for me, I think that's one of the things that really continues to motivate. Another thing that's incredibly important when you're running a distributed business is that you really keep it simple, and fight for simplicity has been a value at Cameo since the beginning. Our management structure is flat. I allow any employee to come and take a one-on-one with me. I still interview every person at the company. we always try to keep it simple. Especially since COVID, there's been a lot of temptation to ship new features or new things to help artists monetize. Should we get into the live concert business right now? Should we be selling tickets? Should we be doing all these things? We have a core business that's growing over 500% year over year. So for us, it's really important trade-off to keep iterating on the core as opposed to innovating off of it, because we think we have so much white space left in our current core market. So fight for simplicity is really important to Cameo. And I think too, when you're in a market like ours, where it's truly a global market, talent are all over the world. We have 40,000 talent on Cameo today. We believe there's 5 million people on Earth. So imagine the people in Bollywood, imagine the telenovela stars in South America, imagine European soccer players or K-pop stars in Korea. The more features that we build, the actual harder it will be for us to scale internationally. So by keeping it simple, by fighting for simplicity, it's allowed our product to scale rapidly around the world. And we've today have sold Cameos in 178 countries. So unless you live in Cuba or North Korea or Somalia, chances are that someone in your wider network has probably gotten a Cameo at this point. And then the last thing that I'll mention, and this is really critical for us, is we created a value just recently called Make It Memorable. And every single Cameo that is produced is memorable. Every interview, every person that's interviewing that comes with me, like, they should be memorable. Just yesterday, one of the gals that came and worked for us as an intern, Mackenzie, had told me when she started as a customer service agent as an intern, and we actually told her at the time that we didn't have a place for her at Cameo. She came up to me at her going away party and was like, Steven, I love this company so much that I would literally pay to work here. And when you hear something like that, somebody that's got great passion, you give them a shot. And we gave her a shot. And frankly, it was one of the best decisions that I think we've ever made as a company. And over the last 2 years, Mackenzie's been a fast riser, and she's someone that has nailed every job that she's done. A year ago, she talked about the fact that she wanted to be a product manager at Cameo and work on the core product. And I've spent the last couple of years mentoring her. And just yesterday, an opportunity for her to take that product role has kind of materialized. And she called me and she said, Steven, I'm on the growth team. I've liked what I'm doing, but I really think that that product is where I want to be. And what should I do? I love my manager. And I reminded her that when I was at LinkedIn, a guy named Mike Gamson, who ran the Chicago office and was number 2 at LinkedIn, gets on stage the very first day that every new hire at LinkedIn starts. And he goes, welcome to LinkedIn. 2 years from today, none of you will be doing the job we just hired you for. We know that, we support it, and we literally have the profile data to prove it. So our job in the next 2 years is to figure out what's your dream job, whether that's internal or external. And our job, your job as an employee, is to figure out what's that next dream job. And when you're ready to go take it, all we ask is that you find someone better than yourself to replace you in your current job. That, when I was at LinkedIn, was magical. When I was a trader, if I told my old bosses that, hey, this soybean thing is interesting, but I want to go do something else, they would have fired me on the spot, and that would have been the end. So I've really tried to bring in this next play culture, as LinkedIn's Jeff Weiner always talks about, where people, when they're hired, smart people want to continue to progress. They want to continue to learn. They don't want to stagnate. And I think for all of you guys coming up, if there's one thing you could take from companies like LinkedIn, hopefully companies like Cameo, it's go trust your young people. This is a company that's built on the backs of really talented 22, 23, 24-year-olds. We've given them free reign, and every time somebody crushes it, we always find more work for them to do. So I would say that one of the big lessons that I've had running this company as a first-time entrepreneur, every single one of you in this audience has probably been a CEO or a manager longer than I have. But I really do believe that you guys should be tripling down on your millennial talent. You guys should be giving them more opportunities to grow, and you should foster that culture where it's actually okay to switch jobs. Somebody might come in on marketing, and their passion might be for customer service, it might be for sales, it might be for product. And I think the more that we can encourage that, the better you'll do at retaining your millennial workforce, and hopefully the more, the better retention you'll have. 4 years in, I'm proud to say that we've only had one person leave Cameo on their own volition. And even that role was one that was incredible. Our head of growth recently, just yesterday, started as the VP of growth and content at the National Basketball Association. And when she told me that, I'm like, hey, my dream one day is to buy the Bulls. And I think that that's the coolest job in the world. And Jess, I love you. I'd love to keep you, but I couldn't be more proud that a Cameo alum is going to be sitting in that chair at one of the most admired brands in the world. So that's what I've got today. I'd love to just give you guys some more time for questions. Happy to answer anything Cameo related, COVID related, anything that would be helpful for this group.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Everyone has the ability to type in the Q&A, so let's take advantage. We have 10 minutes with him. And I know there's a couple questions already. Let me bounce back. Stephen, what's next for Cameo?
Yeah, so this has been a really exciting time for the business. Actually, since COVID, we've launched 3 new products. The first one is Cameo Live, and now you can actually do a Zoom call with over 50 talent on the platform. So for example, you may have Brett Favre come on and join your fantasy football draft this week. I know my draft was last night, so I know a lot of that's happening. Secondly, we created a product called Cameo Direct, which actually is more of a self-use case. So you can go and now text with your favorite athletes, actors, celebrities, which is really exciting. The third thing that we're going to be digging into is what we like to call fan clubs. So right now, Cameo is primarily a gift. 85% of Cameos are bought as gifts for others, but we want to create kind of a unit of fame on Cameo. So you'll be able to go on and actually follow people you like and get broadcasts from them, and ultimately have exclusives like Zoom dinners or Q&As or different behind the scenes content that is different from what you get on Instagram or Twitter. And then the last thing, some of you guys may have read last week that I think is a landmark moment for Cameo as a platform. We just partnered with the Biden campaign, and for the last 2 years, we knew the election was coming up. And we wanted to figure out how to allow celebrities to be surrogates, fundraising surrogates for the different presidential candidates. So we kicked this off with the Biden campaign last week. We should hopefully be kicking off with the Trump campaign and the Republican side as well. And then for the last 50 days ahead of the election, we have a partnership with Rock the Vote that's going to help really build advocacy around voting right now. So we're really excited about these moments for the platform, and that's kind of what's next in the next 6 to 12 months.
Amazing. I'm a huge fan of your company, by the way. So love what you're doing. We have another question. Any lessons learned through your rapid growth that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah. I mentioned that we went from 17 to 130 last year, and look, we really screwed some stuff up there. We were all first-time managers. We had a business that was growing at 1,000%, and a lot of the hires were necessary. But one of the things that I think I've learned taking a step back is I've spent more time with my mentors at LinkedIn, for example, which prided itself on being the best hiring company in the world because they had every resume, right? At LinkedIn, they found that 1/3 of new hires actually didn't work out after a year, and 1/2 of executive hires, which is something probably that has been painful for every single person in this office. 1/2 of executive hires don't work out, don't make it 2 years with the company. And I think when I learned that it's okay to make mistakes, you just have to identify very quickly those people that aren't great and get them out as soon as possible. I think that was a big learning from last year. And one of the ways that we've actually done this is we've totally revamped the way that we hire at Cameo and the way that we do performance management over the first 60 days. A post like this went viral from Betsy Ziegler at 1871 on LinkedIn this week. But one of the things that we now make happen, every manager, if they want to hire for a role, I make them write the A+ performance review for what that person in that job would have to do. While a lot of companies will spend time negotiating salary and equity with the new hire, I actually make the manager and the potential applicant, potential hire, negotiate their 12-month A+ performance review. And then at 60 days, after they've signed off on that, when they sign off on their offer letter, I actually have them work backwards from a 60-day timeline. And at 60 days, we bring that A+ performance review that both the manager and the new hire had signed, and we ask them, hey, how are you tracking towards this? If you're pacing over 100% to plan, hey, great job, keep it up. Awesome. If you're 0 to 15% away from that, off of that, then we say, hey Christine, here's a couple little things that I think you could change to make you be back on track to do the A+ review. If they're 15 to 30% off a plan, then that's where we're saying, hey, Christina, I'm really worried about the performance and I just don't know if you're going to make it. So I really need you to turn this around in the next 30 to 60 days, or we're going to have a really tough conversation. And then lastly, if someone's over 30% off of the expectations you set for them, that's where you just cut them loose. I mean, I think we've all had that. One of the realities in hiring, especially hiring remotely, like we've done, we've added 40 people to the company since COVID started, that pretty much all of whom none of us have ever met in real life. So often when you bring someone into the company, by lunchtime, you know more about them than you did the whole time that you were interviewing them. So I think it's really important to continue to get great talent right now, to take shots on people, but if they're not working out, move them on quickly, and it's better for everybody.
I'm going to ask a quick follow-up on that, if I may. So how do you do that? I have a 22-year-old who's working from home because he can't move to New York City. And that's the first thing we said. It's like your first day at work, they're not taking you to lunch. You're not meeting your team. You're not. So how do you do that?
Yeah, you have to be really intentional. And a couple of things that we've done, I mentioned we did that Cameo Palooza a couple of weeks. The very end of it was a talent show for our employees. And so many of the new hires came up, like we have a trans female engineer that plays in a death metal band, and like she's a new hire, nobody's met her in person, but here she is like with her bandmates coming to play. We had another intern that is like a big dancer, and he does all these like crazy dances like on TikTok, and like he performed. So I think doing things like that. Another format that I really like is once a month, every one of my executive team has to host what we call a Jeffersonian style dinner. And some of you in the crowd may have done these before, but basically it's a single threaded conversation where you do it in a group of 8 to 9, and every person gets a question in front of them. That person asks the question of the group, answers it, and then everybody else goes and answers the same question. And it might be questions like, when were you happiest? Or, what is one thing you must accomplish before you die? Like, very like deep, kind of not work related questions. But I found that hosting some of these dinners during COVID has really helped the connectivity, especially because what's missing right now is, I would say, like, I think most teams are so siloed because everybody's just time on someone's calendar on Zoom. And what we've been able to do now through things like this is to kind of mix it up a little bit and give other people the opportunity to talk to each other.
This was absolutely amazing, Stephen. Thank you. Your company is incredible. You are an amazing CEO. I'm ready to come work for you.
Well, we're hiring.
But you're
best jobs.
So everybody, let's give a big virtual round of applause for Stephen.